Hey everyone! Today we are cracking open one of the most talked about personal finance books of all time, Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Our mission here is to boil it all down to its core philosophy, to really see what all the fuss is about and what it can teach us about our own financial futures. So let's just kick things off with a pretty provocative question, one that's really at the heart of this entire book. What if that advice you've probably heard a million times? Go to school, get good grades, find a safe, secure job. What if that's actually an outdated idea? And maybe, just maybe, it's a financial trap. So where does this radical idea come from? Well, the book's power really stems from the author's super unique childhood. See, he was basically raised by two dads. There was his biological father, highly educated but always struggling with money. He was the poor dad. And then there was his best friend's father, a high school dropout who became a self-made millionaire. And he was the rich dad. Okay, let's dive into this. This one quote just nails the whole thing, doesn't it? One dad's whole focus was on how to become a great employee. The other's focus was on how to build the system that gives those employees a job. We're talking about two completely different universes here. So let's break this down. Poor dad's advice, it was all about security. You know the drill. Study hard, get that safe job with a pension, and for goodness sake, avoid financial risk. Rich dad's philosophy was the total opposite. He was all about financial self-reliance. He said you have to learn to make money work for you, and that means you have to be willing to take calculated risks. It's the difference between working for your money and having your money work for you. And this whole idea leads us right to the central problem Rich Dad was obsessed with teaching him to solve. How do you escape what he called the rat race? Rich Dad's first lesson wasn't some boring lecture. Nope, it was an experience. He hired a young Kiyosaki and his friend to dust canned goods in one of his stores for 3 hours, every single Saturday, and he paid them a measly 10 cents an hour. The work was mind-numbing, and the pay was a joke. So what was the point? He wanted them to feel the frustration, the hopelessness of being a wage slave, deep in their bones. And that feeling, that's the essence of the rat race. It's that cycle we all know so well. You get a job, you earn a paycheck, and you watch it vanish to taxes, the mortgage, car payments, and all the other bills. So you work harder, you get a raise, but then your expenses just creep up to meet it. The hamster wheel just spins faster, but you're not actually going anywhere. And this right here shows the whole cycle in action. Your job brings the income in, but look, it flows right back out again, to taxes, to the mortgage, to all those expenses. But notice what's missing. There's no asset column. There's nothing being built that will generate future income. It's basically a financial dead end. All right, so if that's the trap, how in the world do you get out? Well, Rich Dad taught that it all comes down to understanding one simple, ridiculously powerful rule, the rule that really separates the rich from everybody else. And this rule is so simple, it's almost kind of shocking when you first hear it. So what is it? What's this one big secret that keeps the rich from running in that rat race their whole lives? It starts right here. Part 1 of the rule is this. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket. It doesn't matter if you're actively working for it or not. If it's generating cash flow for you, it's an asset. Simple as that. And then, of course, there's the flip side, a liability. And that's anything that takes money out of your pocket. That's it. That is the whole game. And according to Rich Dad, the big mistake the poor and middle class make is spending their lives buying liabilities that they think are assets. Now, this is the complete opposite pattern. The rich spend their lives acquiring assets. Their assets, things like stocks, bonds, rental properties, they produce income. And what do they do with that income? They use it to buy even more assets. And those new assets produce even more income. It becomes this amazing self-sustaining loop, a wealth-generating machine. So this brings us to Rich Dad's next big lesson, and for most people, this is a huge mental shift. The lesson is, you need to mind your own business. Kiyosaki tells this amazing story about Ray Kroc, the guy who founded McDonald's. Someone once asked him what business he was in, and he said, "My business isn't hamburgers. My business is real estate." See, his profession was selling hamburger franchises, sure, but his real business was accumulating all the valuable real estate underneath every single one of those golden arches. And this is the bottom line for you and me. Your profession, your job, that's how you get a salary to pay your bills. But your business, that's your asset column. The book's advice is pretty clear. Keep your day job for now, but start spending your time and money minding your own business. So, what kinds of things should be in that business, in that asset column? Well, we're talking about real assets, things like businesses that you own but don't have to physically work in. We're talking stocks, bonds, real estate that actually generates income, and even things like intellectual property from books or patents. These are the things that work for you 24/7. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? Buy assets, not liabilities, easy enough. But Kiyosaki makes a huge point here. The biggest roadblocks aren't financial, they're mental. It's all about overcoming the obstacles inside your own head that stop you from taking action. He actually breaks it down into 5 big reasons why even people who know this stuff still fail to build wealth. Number 1 is fear, especially the fear of losing money. Then there's cynicism, that voice of doubt that clouds your vision. There's laziness, which usually masks itself as being too busy. Bad financial habits, of course. And finally, arrogance, which he says is just ignorance with a big ego. Let's just touch on a couple of the really big ones. Look, let's be real, nobody likes losing money. That fear is completely normal. Even rich people feel it. But here's the difference. A poor person is so paralyzed by that fear that they never even start. Rich people, they understand that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's a stepping stone to success. They treat their losses as expensive lessons and they just keep going. And then there's cynicism. That's just fear and doubt pretending to be smart. You show a cynic a great rental property opportunity, and their first reaction is, ugh, but I don't want to fix toilets at 2 a.m. Their criticism just blinds them. A winner, on the other hand, analyzes the problem and asks, okay, how can I find an awesome property manager to deal with the toilets for me? And they grab the opportunity everyone else just walked past. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most powerful idea in the whole book. Every single dollar that comes into your hands is a choice. It's a vote. You can spend it immediately and choose to be poor. You can use it to buy liabilities and choose to stay in the middle class. Or you can put that dollar to work building your asset column and choose to be rich. The power is completely yours. So the only question left is, what choice are you making?